The 4 Pillars of Language Mastery. Introduction. Imagine talking easily with people on your next trip. Imagine understanding your favorite movies in another language. Imagine reading a great book in the language it was written in. This is what it's like to know a language very well. It's a dream that can open doors to new places, help you make friends, and give you new chances. But for many people, learning a language feels very hard. They spend a lot of time learning words and trying to understand grammar rules. But when they try to speak, they can't find the right words. When they listen, they don't understand. What if there was an easier and better way? A way to truly understand and speak a language well, not just in one way, but in all ways. This book will show you that way. It is based on an idea. To really know a language, you need to build a strong base with 4 important skills. We call these the 4 pillars: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Listening means really hearing and understanding the sounds and what people mean when they talk. Speaking means using your voice, making words, and sharing your thoughts clearly and without fear. Reading means understanding words on a page or screen, knowing what sentences and stories mean. Writing means putting your own thoughts into words that others can understand. Think about how you learned your first language. Did you spend most of your time on grammar rules? Or maybe you practiced speaking a lot, but couldn't understand when others spoke? Many people focus on only 1 or 2 of these skills. They might be able to read books, but can't have a simple talk. Or they might speak a little but can't write a short message. The real secret to knowing a language well, the idea this book is built on, is to practice all 4 of these skills the same amount: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. We call this way of learning balanced language skill practice. It's not just doing a little bit of everything. It's knowing that each skill is a strong pillar. If one pillar is weak, the whole building of your language skills is not strong. Think about building a house. You wouldn't build strong walls without a good base listening or a good roof speaking. Each part helps the other parts. When you listen more, you learn new words and how to make sentences. You can then use these in your speaking. When you read, you see different ways to say things. This can help you write better. When you write, you make sure you remember the grammar and words you learned. This makes it easier to use them when you speak. Your listening helps your speaking sound better. The words you learn from reading help you write. Practicing writing helps you think clearly for speaking. Practicing speaking makes listening easier to understand. When you use balanced language skill practice, you do more than just memorize words. You start to truly understand how language works. You can share your thoughts well. You can connect with people better. You become good at the language in a way that feels natural and easy. In the next chapters, we will look closely at each of these 4 pillars. We will share easy ways to do things, good methods, and exercises to make your listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills stronger. We will use the idea of balanced language skill practice to guide us. We will show you how to use these skills together, how to make them work well, and how to get past the problems that stop many people from reaching their language goals. Are you ready to change how you learn a language? Are you ready to build a strong base for knowing languages your whole life? Then let's start. The 4 pillars are waiting for you. Learning a new language. Learning a new language is like opening a door to a new world. Many people start this journey with big hopes. They dream of talking easily with new friends, watching movies without reading words on the screen, or reading books in their original language. But what does it really mean to learn a language? Is it just knowing many words and rules? Or is there more to it? Think about learning to play music. Would you be happy just knowing the names of the notes? Or would you want to play beautiful songs? Learning a language is like that. It's not just collecting facts. It's about being able to use the language to share your thoughts and understand others in a real way. True language learning is about connecting with people, building a bridge between your ideas and theirs across different cultures and ways of seeing the world. When we say we know a language, it's easy to think of simple things. We might say, I know 100 Spanish words, or I can order food in French. These are good starts, but they are like knowing a few dance steps without feeling the music or moving smoothly. Real knowing means understanding the feeling behind the words, the small jokes, the polite ways to ask for things, or the strong ways to share an opinion. It means knowing not just what someone says, but how they say it and why. It's about noticing the tone of voice, the small pauses, and the cultural clues that make talking interesting and alive. Imagine someone who knows many words, but can't put them together in a sentence that sounds natural. They might understand a lot when they listen, but when they try to speak, their sentences sound stiff. Or think about someone who can read hard texts, but can't follow a fast conversation. These show that something is missing. The language is there, but it's not flowing easily. It's like having all the food ingredients but not knowing how to cook a meal. This is why practicing all language skills equally is so important. This means working on all four main parts of language: listening, speaking, reading, and writing in an active and regular way. The main idea is that you can't truly master a language if you ignore any of these skills. They all work together, like parts of your body. If one part is weak, the whole body is affected. Many learners, without even knowing it, tend to like some skills more than others. This is very common. Some people love listening. They listen to podcasts or music for hours and become good at understanding. Others like reading. They enjoy the quiet of books and articles, and their word knowledge grows fast. Then there are those who want to speak. They want to start talking right away, even if they make mistakes. And some learners enjoy writing, liking the careful thought needed to form sentences on paper. These choices are normal. We all have things we are better at or enjoy more. But here's the tricky part. If you only listen, you might understand a lot, but you might not be able to share your own ideas clearly when you speak. If you only read, you might know many words, but you might struggle to understand spoken language or to form your own spoken sentences. If you only speak, you might get by, but you might miss the richness of written language or the deeper understanding from careful listening. This creates an imbalance. It's like building a house with a very strong roof but weak walls. It might look fine from far away, but it's not strong. You might reach a point where you feel stuck. You can understand some things and say some things, but you can't seem to move forward. You might feel upset because you're trying hard, but not seeing the progress you want. This often happens because the skills are not working together. Think about how these skills help each other. When you listen closely to people who speak the language, you hear how they say words, the rhythm of their sentences, and how they speak naturally. This helps your own speaking. You start to sound more natural and your pronunciation gets better. When you read, you find new words and different ways to build sentences. This grows your word knowledge and your understanding of grammar, which then helps you write or speak more complex ideas. Writing, in turn, makes you organize your thoughts clearly and choose your words carefully. This process makes you more aware of the language, which can then help you understand more when you listen or read. And listening helps you understand the feeling and small details that you might not find in writing alone. So, the goal is not just to be good at one or two things. The goal is fluent in all ways. This means being able to use the language well and with confidence in almost any situation. It means you can understand different accents when listening. You can share your thoughts and feelings clearly when speaking. You can read different things, from simple messages to long articles. And you can write your ideas in a way that is clear and works well. This kind of fluency is built on practicing all language skills equally. It's about developing all four parts: listening, speaking, reading, and writing together so they support and make each other stronger. Let me tell you about someone named Maria. Maria decided to learn Italian. She was very excited and bought a nice Italian phrase book. She liked the idea of being able to say hello and order coffee. So she practiced those specific phrases a lot. She also found an Italian TV show she liked, and she would listen to it while she did chores. She felt like she was learning a lot. After a few months, Maria visited Italy. She was eager to use what she had learned. She could say buongiorno and un caffè per favore, and people understood her. But when someone answered her, especially if they spoke fast or used different words than she expected, she felt lost. She could only understand the very basic parts of the talks. When she tried to ask for directions, her practiced phrases didn't quite fit, and she had trouble explaining what she needed. She felt a bit embarrassed and upset. She realized that just knowing a few set phrases was not enough. She could say things, but she couldn't truly talk with people. She also noticed that while she understood some of the TV show, she didn't really know why certain words were used or how the sentences were built. Back home, Maria felt sad. She thought maybe she wasn't good at languages. But then she met a language teacher who explained the idea of the four parts. The teacher told her that Maria had been mostly focusing on speaking a few set phrases and just listening. She had not been actively trying to understand everything when listening, or actively forming her own sentences when speaking. She also had not done much reading or writing. The teacher told Maria to try a more balanced way. Instead of just listening to the TV show, Maria started listening and then trying to repeat sentences, paying attention to the sounds and rhythm. She began reading simple Italian stories, looking up words she didn't know, and writing down new sentences she learned. When she spoke, she tried to make her own sentences, even if they were simple and she made mistakes. She learned that it was okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn. Slowly, things began to change. As Maria read more, her word knowledge grew, and she started to understand how sentences were put together. This helped her when she listened, because she could guess the meaning of new words from the situation. When she spoke, she found herself using new words and sentence structures she had learned from reading. And when she wrote, she had to think carefully about grammar and word choice, which made her more aware of the language. After another 6 months of this balanced practice, Maria visited Italy again. This time it was different. She understood more of the conversations around her. When she spoke, she could share her ideas more fully. She could ask for suggestions, talk about her day, and even understand jokes. She wasn't as fluent as someone who grew up speaking Italian, but she was truly communicating. She felt sure of herself and happy. Her experience showed her that her first struggles weren't because she couldn't learn, but because she hadn't been using all the tools she had. She learned that by practicing listening, speaking, reading, and writing together, she gained a much deeper understanding and ability. This story shows an important point. Why do learners often develop an imbalance in their language skills? It's often for a few reasons. First, there's the comfort zone. We naturally do things that feel easier or more rewarding. For some, this is listening without trying too hard to speak. For others, it's reading, which allows for a slower, more controlled pace. Second, there's the quick reward trap. Being able to say a few phrases can feel like fast progress, which is encouraging. But this can lead to ignoring the slower, more important work of understanding and expressing complex ideas. Third, many learning materials are also unbalanced. Books might focus a lot on grammar rules, which helps reading and writing, while apps for talking with others might. Focus on speaking practice. Without trying hard to find and use all 4 skills, it's easy to fall into a pattern of imbalance. The common problems from this imbalance are big. Learners might know many words when they see or hear them, but can use only a few when they speak or write. They might understand reading very well, but struggle to follow a fast conversation. They might be able to speak in simple sentences, but don't have the grammar or words to express complex thoughts. This can cause learning to slow down, where progress seems to stop and frustration grows. The learner might feel they are studying hard, but not really getting better. The way these skills work together is the key to fixing these problems. Listening makes your ear better for pronunciation and the rhythm of speech, which directly improves your speaking. Reading shows you more words and sentence structures, making your writing and speaking better. Writing makes you organize your thoughts and use language carefully, which in turn improves your understanding and speaking clarity. And speaking, when done thoughtfully, helps you learn grammar and words in an active way. Each skill helps the others, creating a strong cycle of learning and improvement. The final goal, then, is not just to learn a language, but to achieve full fluency. This means being able to use the language easily and with confidence in all situations. It means understanding the small differences in meaning, the cultural background, and the emotional weight of words. It means being able to share your ideas fully and connect with others on a deeper level. This kind of mastery is built on the idea of practicing all language skills equally, where listening, speaking, reading, and writing are all given the same attention and developed together. While learning all 4 skills might seem hard at first, understanding why this balance is important is the first step. It's about realizing that each skill has a vital role and that they work together to create true understanding and ability. In the next parts, we will look at each of these skills one by one, exploring what they add and how they combine to unlock true language mastery. Listening and speaking practice. When words feel like music and you can sing along, that's a special kind of magic. It's like a door opening. You stop just looking from the outside and step right into the room where people are talking. This is when listening and speaking become best friends, helping each other shine. Think about your ears when you listen. They work hard to catch words, how they fit together, and the feelings behind them. But if you also want to speak, your brain starts to link those sounds to making them yourself. It's a strong link. You hear a word, you get it, and then you try to say it. Trying to speak actually makes you listen even better next time. You start to notice small details and sounds, because you know you'll need them to make your own words. This is balanced language skill practice working. You don't just listen. You listen to get ready to speak, and you speak because you listened. It's a circle that makes you better at both. Let me tell you about Maria. She started learning Spanish by reading books and doing grammar. She knew many words and rules, but when she went to Mexico, she felt lost. People spoke so fast. She understood parts, but putting it all together was like catching rain in a net. And speaking? That was even harder. She would freeze, scared to make mistakes. Her mind went blank, even though she knew the words. She saw that just reading wasn't enough. She needed to hear Spanish and speak Spanish. So Maria changed how she learned. She listened to Spanish music, podcasts, and watched TV shows in Spanish without looking at the words on the screen at first. It was hard. She didn't understand everything. Not at all. But she kept going. She focused on getting the main idea, the mood, and any word she knew. Then she started speaking. She found someone online to talk with. At first, their talks were slow and had many stops. Maria would trip over words, and her friend would wait kindly. But Maria kept trying. She would say words she heard, try to use new phrases from podcasts, and ask her friend to fix her mistakes. Slowly, something wonderful happened. As Maria listened more, she began to see how people spoke. She started to guess what people might say. And as she spoke more, even with her mistakes, she felt less scared. Words began to flow a little easier. She learned to link the sounds she heard with the sounds she made. Her way of speaking got better because she tried to copy the people who spoke Spanish naturally. Her confidence grew because she was talking, even if it wasn't perfect. This wasn't just about learning Spanish, it was about learning to use Spanish in real life. She was building the spoken connection, making listening and speaking work together. This brings us to a very important idea. Listening and speaking are like two sides of the same coin when we talk in real time. You can't have a real talk without both. Imagine playing catch alone. You can throw the ball, but no one catches it and you can't catch what isn't thrown to you. It's the same with language. Listening is getting the message and speaking is sending it. They need each other for talking to happen. When you focus on both, you create a strong learning circle. You listen to how people who speak the language naturally say things, how they make sounds, which words they stress, their tone. Then, you try to copy that when you speak. The more you try to speak, the more you find out which sounds are hard for you. This makes you listen even more closely next time, trying to hear exactly how to make that sound. It's like a musician practicing notes. They hear the notes, they try to play them, and they fix it until it sounds right. Your ears and your mouth work together to get it right. This practice helps build your memory for sounds and your pronunciation. Your brain starts to keep the sounds of the language. It's not just remembering words, it's remembering how they sound when spoken naturally. When you hear a group of words many times, you start to know it right away. Your brain doesn't have to break it down word by word anymore. It hears the whole group. And when you try to say it, you're not just guessing. You're pulling up that stored sound. This is how you start to sound more natural. You pick up on the music of the language. Think about learning a song by reading the notes on paper versus learning it by hearing it. Reading the notes tells you the notes, but learning by hearing helps you get the feeling, the expression, the small details that make the song special. Listening to a language does that for your speaking. It teaches your ear not just to hear words, but to hear the song of the talk. And then, when you speak, you try to make that song. Even if your first tries aren't perfect, you're building the muscle memory for those sounds. You're training your tongue, your lips, your throat to move the right way. One of the biggest problems for people learning a language is becoming quick and confident. Many learners can say sentences they practiced or answer simple questions they were ready for. But ask them something unexpected, or try to have a chat about daily life, and they might get scared. This is where practicing speaking often is very important. It's not about being perfect. It's about being willing to try. Every time you open your mouth to speak, even if you make a mistake, you are building your confidence. You are showing yourself that you can talk. This ability to think quickly, to answer without a long pause to find the right word, comes from practice. It's like learning to ride a bike. You might wobble and fall a few times, but the more you try, the more your body learns to balance by itself. Your brain learns to find words and phrases faster when you're in a real talk. You learn to use simpler words if you can't find the harder ones. You learn to say your ideas in a different way. This is what makes a talk feel natural. It's not about having a perfect script. It's about being able to change and keep the talk going. The difference between learning by doing versus learning by just watching is also very important here. Listening without actively trying to understand is good. It's like letting the language flow over you. You might be cooking and have a podcast playing. You'll catch some words, some rhythms. That's useful. But it's not enough to be great. Active listening is when you really focus. You're trying to get the main idea. You might stop the recording to look up a word. You might try to guess what the speaker will say next. You're using your brain fully. In the same way, speaking without actively thinking might be repeating phrases from a book. That's a start. But active speaking is when you use the language to say your own thoughts, ask your own questions, and answer someone else's ideas. It's about using the language to talk, not just as a school subject. When you put active listening and active speaking together, you create a strong cycle of getting better. You hear something, you think about it actively, you try to answer actively, and then you hear the answer to your own speaking. This quick feedback is very helpful for learning. Let's see how trying to speak a language makes you better at understanding it when others speak. When you get ready to speak, you actively think about the words and rules you need. You might be thinking about a sentence in your head. This thinking in your head makes you notice the way the language is put together. So, when you hear someone else speaking, your brain is ready to see those patterns. You're not just hearing random sounds, you're hearing familiar patterns. You might think, they used that verb form I was trying to remember. This makes understanding much easier. Also, when you speak, you have to make your thoughts simpler and say them clearly. This process of making things simpler for speaking makes you better at understanding simpler or more direct speech from others. You learn to get to the main point of an idea. Also, the physical act of trying to make words and sounds helps you focus your ear on those specific sounds. You become better at hearing the small differences between sounds that might have seemed the same when you were only listening. Your brain starts to sort the sounds more correctly because it has the physical experience of trying to make them. Now, what are the common problems learners have when trying to get better at listening and speaking, and how can these be fixed with balanced practice? One big problem is the fear of making mistakes. Learners worry about sounding silly or not being understood. This fear can make them silent, which is the opposite of speaking practice. The fix here is to accept mistakes as part of learning. Remember Maria? She started by knowing she would make errors. She focused on talking, not being perfect. Balanced language skill practice supports this by showing that every try, even with mistakes, helps you get better overall. Another problem is relying too much on one skill. Some learners listen all the time, but rarely speak. Others speak a lot but don't spend enough time listening to people who speak the language naturally, so their speaking and understanding get worse. This not being balanced stops them from reaching their best. The key is to make sure you balance your time. If you spend an hour reading, try to spend an hour listening and speaking too. It doesn't have to be exactly the same every day, but over the week, try for a good mix. A third common issue is trying to understand every single word. When listening, if you stop at a word you don't know, you can miss the rest of the sentence. This makes you feel bad. The way to fix this is to practice listening for the main idea. Focus on the main message, the important words, and the overall feeling. Don't let one word you don't know stop your whole listening session. This skill of understanding without knowing every word perfectly is vital for real-life talks. And guess what? The more you speak, the better you get at guessing the meaning of unknown words from the situation because you are actively using the situation yourself when you speak. Finally, learners sometimes don't hear enough different kinds of speaking. They might only listen to one type of podcast or watch one type of show. This means they only hear a limited range of voices, words, and ways of speaking. To truly master listening, you need to listen to different people at different speeds on different topics and with different accents. In the same way, speaking practice should involve different types of talking, asking questions, giving opinions, telling stories, talking about problems. This variety makes sure your listening and speaking skills are strong and can be used in many ways. The way listening and speaking work together is truly amazing. When you actively listen, you are not just hearing sounds, you are collecting the material for your own speaking. You are learning the words, the rules, the rhythm, and the way of speaking that you will eventually use. And when you actively speak, you are making what you heard stronger. You are practicing the muscle memory for sounds, you are testing if you understand the rules, and you are building the confidence to use the language when it happens. This connection is the heart of balanced language skill practice. By giving equal attention to both listening and speaking, you create a strong engine for talking easily. You train your ears to understand and your mouth to answer, making the path to being great smoother and more fun. Now that we've looked at the important link between listening and speaking, we will move on to the skills that help us understand things inside our heads and let us say complex thoughts. Reading and writing. Reading and writing practice. Learning a new language is like building a strong house. We already talked about listening, which is like hearing the sounds and music of the language. We also talked about speaking, which is like putting those sounds into words and sentences. Now, let's build the walls and add the final touches with reading and writing. These two skills are just as important as listening and speaking. They work together like a team, making each other better. When all four skills are practiced together, we call it balanced language skill practice. If we only do one or two, our language house will be shaky. When you read, it's like opening a window to see how people really use the language. You see words and sentences put together in ways that sound natural. This is where you find new words and learn how grammar works in real life. Imagine reading a simple storybook in the language you are learning. You might not know every word, but you will see familiar words next to new ones. You will see how sentences are made. For example, you might see the word for happy many times, and you will start to understand what it means from the pictures and the sentences around it. You will also see how verbs change or how describing words are placed. This is much better than just trying to memorize lists of words. Reading gives you context, and context is like the glue that holds new language pieces together in your mind. It's like seeing how different bricks fit together to make a wall. Let me tell you about Sarah. When Sarah started learning Spanish, she really wanted to talk to people. She spent a lot of time listening to talks and trying to say phrases. She loved the idea of talking with people who speak Spanish all the time. But she found that when people spoke fast, she often missed important words. And when she tried to explain something, her sentences sometimes sounded a little strange, even if the words were right. She felt stuck. She wasn't reading much, and she hardly ever wrote anything. She thought reading and writing were only for school or for people who were very good at the language. One day, Sarah's teacher told her to try reading a simple Spanish newspaper story about something she liked, like cooking. Sarah didn't really want to, but she tried. At first, it was slow. She had to look up many words. But she kept going. She saw how the newspaper writer described food items and how to cook them. She saw phrases like add a little salt or stir until it looks golden brown. These were useful phrases she hadn't heard much on the talks. She started writing down the new words and phrases she found in a small notebook. She even tried to write a short paragraph about her favorite food, using some of the new words and sentence ideas she had read. This is when Sarah started to improve a lot. As she read more, she began to understand more words when people spoke. The way sentences were put together in writing helped her understand spoken sentences better. When she started writing short descriptions or messages, she found herself thinking about how she had seen similar ideas written down. Her writing helped her organize her thoughts, and this organization then helped her speak more clearly. She understood that reading gave her the building blocks, the words and grammar, and writing taught her how to use those blocks to build her own ideas. This was a perfect example of balanced language skill practice. She wasn't just listening and speaking anymore, she was also reading and writing, and all four skills were growing together. Writing, on the other hand, is like actively building something with those language bricks. When you write, you can't just take in information without thinking. You have to think. You have to search your memory for the right words. You have to figure out how to put them together correctly so they make sense. This is called active recall. It's like your brain is exercising. If you learned a new word, reading it might help you remember seeing it. But writing it makes you remember how to spell it and how to use it in a sentence. This process makes the word stick much better. Let's say you learn the word for beautiful in French, which is belle. If you just read it, you might remember seeing it. But if you try to write a sentence like the flower is beautiful, la fleur est belle, you have to actively remember belle and put it in the right spot. If you make a mistake, you will probably see it when you read your sentence again, or someone else might tell you. This mistake then becomes a chance to learn. Writing shows you where your understanding is not clear. It shows you the gaps. Maybe you know the word, but you are not sure if it goes before or after the thing it describes, or if it needs to change its ending. Writing helps you find these things out. So, how do reading and writing help listening and speaking? It's a wonderful connection. When you read a lot, you get used to how sentences naturally flow. You see common phrases and how people who speak the language connect their ideas. This helps you understand better when you listen, because you have already seen those patterns in writing. You are less likely to be surprised by how a sentence is put together or a common saying. This better understanding from reading can then make you feel more sure of yourself when you try to speak. You have more phrases and sentence ideas in your mind to use. In the same way, when you practice writing, you learn to organize your thoughts in a clear order. You learn to build sentences that are easy to understand and complete. This skill of organizing ideas on paper is directly useful when you speak. Instead of just saying words quickly, you can start to build more thoughtful answers. You can think, how can I say this clearly? Just like you would when writing. And if you get help with your writing, like a teacher fixing your grammar, that correction helps you improve your spoken grammar too. The connection works the other way around too. Listening can help your reading and writing. When you hear a word spoken, you learn how to say it. This can help you recognize it when you see it written. Sometimes, hearing a word can even help you remember how to spell it. For example, if you hear the PH sound in English words like phone or photo, you learn that PH often makes that sound. This clue from hearing helps you when you see those words written down. And speaking? Speaking helps your reading and writing. When you say a sentence out loud, you often feel if it sounds right or wrong. This natural sense of what sounds correct, or having a good ear for the language, can guide your writing. If a sentence you have written sounds strange when you read it aloud, you know something needs to be fixed. Also, when you speak and people correct you, you learn about your common mistakes. You can then pay extra attention to those mistakes when you are reading or writing. It's all connected. This is the main idea of balanced language skill practice. Each skill helps the others. Reading gives you the words and grammar you need to speak and write. Writing makes you use those words and grammar, making them stronger. Listening helps you understand spoken words and recognize them in writing. Speaking helps you feel the natural flow of the language and find parts to improve in your writing. Not doing one of these is like leaving a support out of our language house. So, how can you actually do this? How can you practice reading and writing well? It's easier than you might think, and it doesn't have to be boring. First, for reading, start with things that are interesting to you and at your level. Don't try to read a hard book on the first day. Start with children's books, books made for language learners, simple news stories, or even song words. Websites often have short, easy texts. The important thing is to read often. Try to read for a short time every day, even just 10-15 minutes. When you read, don't stop for every single word you don't know. That can be annoying. Try to guess what the word means from the sentences around it first. If a word seems important and you see it many times, then look it up. Keep a word notebook. This is a notebook where you write down new words and phrases you see. Don't just write the word and what it means. Try to write a short sentence using the word, maybe a sentence that shows how it's used. This makes the word more useful and easier to remember. After you read something, try to do something with it. Tell it in your own words. You can do this by speaking or writing. If you read a short news story, try to tell a friend or even just yourself what happened. Or write a few sentences telling the main ideas. This is a great way to check if you understood and to practice using the language. For writing, the same idea works. Start with simple things and do it often. You don't need to write long essays right away. Start with short, easy tasks. A good practice is writing in a journal. Every day, try to write a few sentences about your day, what you think, or what you plan to do. It doesn't have to be perfect. The goal is to get your ideas down. You can also try describing things. Look at a picture, maybe a photo on your phone or a picture in a magazine, and write a few sentences about what you see. Who is in the picture? What are they doing? What is the weather like? What colors do you see? This is an easy way to practice words and how to make sentences. Writing short messages or emails to other language learners is also very useful. This gives you a real reason to write and a chance to talk with others. If you have a language partner, you can write to each other and then correct each other's writing. This feedback is very helpful. Another good exercise is rewriting. Take a short text you have read and try to write it in your own words. This makes you think about the information and say it in a different way, which makes your understanding stronger and your ability to use the language more creative. Let's think about the questions we asked. How does just looking at written words reading help you get better at expressing yourself speaking and writing? It might seem like you are just looking at words on a page, but your brain is working hard. Reading shows you lots of correct language. You see how ideas are put together, how words are used naturally, and how grammar rules are used in real sentences. This quiet learning builds your understanding of the language inside you. When you then try to speak or write, this knowledge comes out. You are not just pulling words from nowhere. You are using patterns and structures you have seen and understood through reading. It's like learning to cook by watching many chefs. You learn their ways of doing things, how they mix ingredients, and how they make the food look nice. Then, when you cook yourself, you have a lot of learned knowledge to use, making your dish better than if you had only ever tasted food. Reading gives you the recipes and the ingredients for your own language creations. And in what ways can someone use their reading and writing skills to get better faster at listening and speaking, and vice versa? This is where the skills really help each other. If you are a good reader, you probably know many words and understand grammar well. This means when you listen, you will understand more words and sentence structures more easily. This confidence from reading can make you want to speak more. When you speak, you might hear words or phrases you don't know. You can then write them down and look them up later, maybe finding them in your reading. If you are a good writer, you are good at organizing thoughts and making clear sentences. This ability to structure ideas will help you when you speak. You will be able to build more organized spoken answers. When you speak, you might get told about how you say words or which words you choose. This help can then be used in your writing. For example, if someone corrects how you say a word, you will pay more attention to that word when you see it written and might even notice its spelling. On the other hand, if you are good at listening, you will have a better sense of the sounds and rhythms of the language. This can help you understand what you read, as you might be able to say words more easily and know their meaning from how they sound. It can also help your writing by giving you an idea of how words should be spelled, as you have heard them so often. If you are confident when speaking, you are practicing forming sentences and using words right away. This active use of language can make it easier to remember words and structures when you need to write them down. You might also get corrections when speaking, which can help you avoid those mistakes in your writing. Basically, every skill makes the other stronger. Reading builds your word knowledge and grammar, which helps you understand what you hear and say what you mean more clearly when you speak and write. Writing makes you use that word knowledge and grammar, making it stronger and showing you where you need to improve. Listening lets you hear real pronunciation and natural speech patterns, helping your reading and giving you a model for your own speaking. Speaking lets you practice using the language right away, get feedback, and become more fluent, which in turn can help your writing and understanding of what you read. By practicing reading and writing carefully, learners not only get more language tools, but also build the mental ability needed for deeper understanding and clearer expression. This active use of the written word is a very important step in building a strong understanding of the language. It's about making the language a part of you, not just something you can repeat. This balanced way, where reading and writing are mixed into your learning along with listening and speaking, is the way to become truly skilled. It makes sure that your language skills are well-rounded, strong, and ready for any situation. Connecting language skills. Learning a new language can feel like building something big. We often think of the parts as separate: hearing sounds, saying words, reading sentences, and writing letters. It's normal to focus on one part at a time, but what if these parts are not separate at all? They are like threads woven into a beautiful cloth. When you pull one thread, it affects all the others. This is the main idea of practicing language skills together. It means that to really learn a language well, you must practice hearing, speaking, reading, and writing all at the same time. If you skip one part, your learning can slow down. Think about it. When you hear someone speak, you don't just hear sounds. You learn new words, you see how sentences are put together, and you notice the rhythm of the language. All this information stays in your mind, ready to be used. Then, when you try to speak, you use what you've heard. The words you heard, the sentence ideas you noticed, they help you form your own thoughts. If you are not good at hearing, you might not have enough words or sentence ideas to use, which makes speaking much harder. It's like trying to bake a cake without all the ingredients. You might have flour and sugar, but without eggs or milk, the cake won't turn out right. This connection is very strong. Let's say you are reading a book. You find a word you don't know. You might look it up, or you might guess its meaning from how it's used in the sentence. You are not just reading, you are learning new words and how grammar works. Now, imagine you need to write about the same topic later. The words and sentences you saw while reading are now more familiar. You can use them more easily when you write. If you only read, you might know many words, but you might find it hard to say or write them when you need to. Reading gives you the building blocks, but speaking and writing are where you use them to build. This is where passive and active skills come in. Hearing and reading are often called passive skills because you are taking in information. You are receiving things. Speaking and writing are active skills because you are creating language. You are making something. Both are very important. Passive skills build the foundation. They fill your mind with the language, the sounds, the words, the rules. Without this foundation, you have nothing to use when you try to speak or write. But if you only focus on passive skills, you will know a lot about the language, but won't be able to use it. You will be like someone who knows everything about swimming, but has never jumped in the water. The real magic happens when these passive and active skills work together in a cycle. Imagine you were talking with a friend speaking. They say something and you don't understand a word. So, you ask them to say it again or explain it listening. They explain, and maybe they use a different word or phrase that helps. Now you have learned something new by listening. Later, you might want to write about that talk. You will use the new word or phrase you learned. See how that works. Speaking led to listening, which then helped your writing. It's a continuous circle of learning and using. Let's look closer at how a weakness in one skill can hold back another. Imagine someone who is not good at understanding what they hear. They might be able to read well and they might understand grammar rules on paper. But when they try to speak, they might say words incorrectly. Because they haven't clearly heard how people who speak the language naturally say those sounds. Their ears haven't learned to hear small differences in how words sound, so they can't copy them. They might also have trouble understanding others in a conversation, leading to awkward silences or not understanding each other. This can make them feel shy about speaking, so they avoid speaking practice because their hearing isn't strong enough, which stops their hearing from getting better. Or think about someone who is afraid to speak. They might read a lot and know many words. But because they rarely practice speaking, they don't get comfortable with the physical act of making words and sentences. They might stop, look for words, or feel embarrassed about their accent. This fear of speaking can make them avoid situations where they need to use the language. They might miss chances to learn from their mistakes and to hear how others react to them. Their reading skills might get better, but their ability to talk well in real conversation stays the same. Now, let's see how we can plan practice that connects these skills. It's about using your time wisely. Instead of spending an hour just reading, and then another hour just listening, try to do them together. One easy way is to listen to a podcast or an audiobook, and then try to tell the story or explain the main ideas in your own words. This connects listening and speaking. You are not just listening. You are actively thinking about what you heard and then saying it. You could even try to write a summary first and then speak it out loud. This connects listening, writing, and speaking. Another good way is to read an article and then talk about it with a friend or a teacher. This connects reading and speaking. You are not just reading for information, you are getting ready to share and talk about that information. You might find a word in the article that you want to use in your talk, or you might hear a new word from your friend that you look up later. What about connecting reading and writing? You can read a short story and then try to write a different ending for it. Or you can read an article with an opinion and then write your own answer, agreeing or disagreeing with the writer. This uses the words and sentence styles you saw in your reading to create your own writing. We can also connect listening and reading. Listen to a song and then read the words. Try to understand how the words you hear match the words on the page. Or watch a short video with words on the screen subtitles, then watch it again without the words. This helps you connect the sounds you hear with the written words, and then check if you understood without the help on the screen. And what about connecting speaking and writing? You could record yourself talking about something for a few minutes. Then, listen to the recording and write down the main points or interesting phrases you used. Or, you could write a short talk between two people and then practice saying those parts out loud. The goal is to see these connections everywhere. When you learn a new word, don't just put it on a list. Think about how you heard it listening, how you might say it speaking, how you might see it in a sentence reading, and how you could use it in your own writing. Try to use it in all 4 skills within a day or 2. Let's imagine someone named Maria who was learning Spanish. Maria loved reading Spanish books and she could understand them well. She also liked listening to Spanish music. But when it came to speaking, she stopped. She felt like she didn't have the right words, and she was afraid of making mistakes. Her teacher saw this. The teacher suggested that Maria take a part from one of the books she liked to read. She should read it carefully, making sure she understood every word. Then she should try to tell that part to her teacher, using her own words as much as possible. This connected her strong reading skill with her weaker speaking skill. At first, Maria found it hard. She would stop a lot, looking for words. But her teacher was patient and helped her. Sometimes, the teacher would say, "Remember that word you read on page 50? It fits perfectly here." This reminded Maria of the connection between her reading and speaking. After a few times, Maria started to feel more sure of herself. She realized that the words she was reading were actually there for her to use when she spoke. Then her teacher suggested another step. Maria would listen to a short Spanish news report. After listening, she would write a short summary of what she heard. This connected listening and writing. Finally, she would read her summary out loud. This brought speaking back into the process. Maria found that by doing these combined activities, her Spanish got better much faster. She wasn't just taking in Spanish through reading and music, she was actively using it, and her skills were helping each other. Her words got better not just in her mind, but in her ability to use them. Her grammar became more natural because she was hearing it, reading it, and then trying to say it herself. This is not about doing more work. It's about doing smarter work. By understanding that hearing helps speaking, reading helps writing, and so on, you can create practice sessions that work very well. You are not just checking off tasks for each skill, you are building a strong, connected system. When you find a new word or a grammar idea, try to find it in something you read, listen for it in something you hear, say it out loud, and then try to write it down. This way of working makes the new language piece stick much better. It's like hitting a nail. One hit might not be enough, but repeated, focused hits in the same spot drive it in deep. The connections are everywhere, and once you start looking for them, you will see them in every part of language. A difficult grammar point you read about might suddenly make sense when you hear someone who speaks the language use it in a talk. A word you struggle to remember for writing might come to your mind when you were trying to explain something by talking. These moments are not by chance. They are the natural result of your brain making connections between the different ways you use the language. So, the next time you sit down to study, don't think, "Today I will practice hearing," or "Today I will practice writing." Instead, think, "How can I use what I hear to help my speaking today?" Or "How can I use what I read to improve my writing?" By purposely weaving these skills together, you are not just learning a language, you are truly mastering it, building a deep and lasting ability that goes far beyond remembering words and rules. You are creating a living, active relationship with the language. Conclusion: you have learned the main parts of learning a language: listening, talking, reading, and writing. The best way to learn a language is not just to know words, but to feel like you live in that language. To speak and understand well, you need to use all four parts. This book taught you to use them all together. This is called using all language skills equally. It means all the parts of language work together. When you listen, you learn how people talk. This helps you talk better. When you read, you see how sentences are built. This helps you write better. When you write, you remember words. When you try to talk, you use the words and rules you learned. Think of the four skills like parts of nature. They all need each other to be healthy. The best way to learn a language is to use it. You need to be brave to talk, keep trying to write, focus when you listen, and be curious when you read. Some days, one skill will feel easier than another. That is okay. Just try to spend more time on the skills that are harder for you. Try to listen a little bit every day. Don't be afraid to talk, even if you talk to yourself. Read something often. Write a little bit each day, like a diary. Your way of learning is special. Find things you like to learn with, but always use all four skills. When you use using all language skills equally, you are not just learning words. You are learning to think in a new way, to connect with others, and to know yourself better. You will understand other cultures more. You will make friends with people from different places. You will have more chances in your life and work. Your life will be better. Learning a language is a journey that lasts your whole life. Keep learning, keep practicing, and keep growing. Build your language skills by using all four parts.